Respected Your Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste and Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Respected Your Excellency Dr. Volpe, Senior Minister of the Royal Government of Cambodia, Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council for Education of Cambodia, and PUC Founding Father and Chairman of the PUC Board of Trustees. Respected Your Excellency, Madams, national and international distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On these occasions of the dinner receptions, graciously hosted by Panyasastra University of Cambodia, in honor of His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, the artists of the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts have the great honor to present this evening a cultural program beginning with the Apsara dance. In Khmer mythology, all Apsara were born from the formed surface of the oceans of milk. When the heavenly begin, Devada and Demon, Asura, churn the ocean of milk with a gigantic Naga in search for Tat Amrit, or the desert of immortality. The then portray Mira, dressed in white for purity, dancing in her garden. She is joined by her handmaid, also Apsara, who produce flower, which express great love of the people and nations. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Apsara Dance. is filled with coconut trees, which make up one of the main agricultural resources of the country. Inspired by nature, the artists of the Royal University of Fine Art created the coconut shell dam, which is now going to be presented. Your Excellency, Dr. Teo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Coconut Shell Dam. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to present to you the marked organ of the Sui ethnic dam. Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta and Dr. Colke kindly forward to the stage to present flower to all our artists.
The recipient for water. Water represents prosperity.
And I also like to invite Mr. Uwe Morawetz. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude this evening with a very beautiful songs, and I thank you very much, all the artists. And also, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, for presenting this evening. Also, Dr. Paul Paynes, and especially to all ladies and gentlemen here to present with our beautiful dinner. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening. So to be welcome, Your Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste and Nobel Peace Prize Laureate, and delegation. Your Excellency Dr. Paul Payne, Senior Minister of the Royal Government of Cambodia, Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council for Education of Cambodia, PUC Founding Father and Chairman and CEO. Dr. Jia Sam Jantan, PUC President, Vice Presidents, Ambassador, Deans, Associate Deans, Professor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to PUC. Without further ado, I am honored to invite His Excellency Dr. Paul Payne, Senior Minister of the Royal Government of Cambodia, Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council for Education of Cambodia, PUC Founding Father and Chairman and CEO, to deliver his welcome remark. Dr. Paul.
Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste, and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Your Excellency, Madam, distinguished diplomatic corps, national and international honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, faculties member and students assembly. First and foremost, on behalf of the PUC community, we have immense pleasure and honor to host His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste and a 1996 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, as our distinguished keynote speaker today. Today, we are delighted to have this auspicious occasion and opportunity to hear his peace-striving experience for Timor-Leste. I feel very honored and profoundly grateful for his kindness in coming to share with us his invaluable experience in peacemaking at our university. Please allow me to briefly mention a little bit about our Panyasastra University, and we call it PUC. Since its inception, PUC commits itself to the promotion of world peace, where peaceful solutions are encouraged to find answers to all forms of conflict. That's the reason why we established at our university a Peace and Conflict Study Institute, which includes 5 countries as members of this institute. The program was initiated and first sponsored by the government of Japan. PUC firmly believe that it is through education that people can live in peace and harmony with one another. According to the Lord Buddha, war or conflict come from nowhere but human nature, and mind defilement, which are greed, hatred, and ignorance. These 3 evil thoughts manifest themselves in bodily, verbal, and mental action. They are the root causes of all war and conflict. Therefore, it is man who creates world war or world peace. With this belief intact, PUC has been keen to promote peace, starting from individuals. This creates an idea that when there is inward peace in individuals, it contributes to peace in family. When every family is at peace, the community is peaceful. When the community is peaceful, it assures the peace in society. When a society is peaceful, it leads to peace in the nation. When a nation is peaceful, it brings about peace in a region. When the whole region of the world is peaceful, the whole world will enjoy and live in peace and harmony. Peace begins in our heart and mind. The same concept is shared by the preamble of UNESCO, which states that since war begins in the mind of man, peace can be likewise be constructed in the mind of man. Man is more complex than animal, where this uniqueness lies in his potential to overcome ignorance, to overcome greed, to overcome anger, and experience and exercise perfect knowledge and wisdom. Therefore, the main objective of education at PUC is freedom from all forms of bondage, material and spiritual. To concretize the goal of freedom and to promote peace, an individual has to use his cognitive and its full potential with his or her own effort, keeping oneself strictly to the path of freedom. The path is comprised of the 3 stages, which can be seen in our PUC motto, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, meaning high morality, insight, meditation, or concentration, and wisdom. Students at PUC have to undergo a rigorous training in moral behavior, training their mind on essential things, and controlling their body and mind properly, making them experience wisdom. These form an integrated whole and are not merely theory, but a practical way of life, a process of living leading to the goal of freedom. Peace cannot happen in this world without the practice of tolerance. To be tolerant, we must overcome anger and greed, as our Lord Buddha teaches us. No enemy can harm one so much as one's own thought of craving, hate, and jealousies. I hope that today historical gathering at PUC will contribute the shared experience and our common goal in fostering world peace and solidarity for the benefit and happiness of all sentient beings in the planet. In closing, I would like to leave you with this humble thought. Man has forgotten that he has a heart. He forgot that if he treats the world kindly, the world will treat him kindly in return. May all beings be always happy. Thank you so much for your attention.
I thank you very much, Dr. Kolping, for your warm welcome remark. And now we are going to hear an overview of the third ASEAN's event series, Bridges Dialogue Toward a Culture of Peace. Please allow me to introduce the speaker, Mr. Uwe Morawetz. Mr. Uwe Morawetz is an artist, promoter, networker, facilitator, and producer, and the founder and chairman of the board of directors of the International Peace Foundation, a non-political independent foundation under the patronage of 21 Nobel Peace Prize laureates based in Vienna. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Uwe Morawetz.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, welcome to the third ASEAN event series, Bridges, Dialogues Towards a Culture of Peace. Bridges is facilitated by the International Peace Foundation, a non-political and non-religious foundation, under the patronage of 21 Nobel Peace Prize laureates, including His Excellency President Dr. Ramos-Horta, based in Vienna. The events are hosted in cooperation with various local partners and institutions, including the country's major universities, and I would like to thank the Panasasri University of Cambodia for hosting our event today. Since November last year, more than 50 Bridges events with a total audience of 20,000 participants, mostly students, have been continuously held in Cambodia until today, involving the participation of Nobel laureates for peace, physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics, as well as other keynote speakers and artists, including Hong Kong actor Jackie Chan, Hollywood film director Oliver Stone, and world-renowned pianist Vladimir Ashkenazy. The third ASEAN series of bridges is an independent contribution to the Decade for a Culture of Peace and Nonviolence, which was initiated by the United Nations General Assembly. It follows a series of 350 bridges events, which the International Peace Foundation has already hosted in Thailand, the Philippines and Malaysia since 2003. 39 Nobel laureates, as well as 18 other keynote speakers and artists, including Dr. Hans Fix, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Vanessa May, Jesse Norman, the late Dame Anita Roddick, and Dr. James Wolfenson participated in these events. In Thailand, they were presided by Her Majesty Queen Sirikit and Her Royal Highness Princess Maha Chakri Siritorn, and they reached an audience of 120,000 participants. This peace cannot be achieved instantly, but is a process which needs time. Bridges has not been organized as one single conference and then everything is over again and forgotten, but as an ongoing series of events in which Nobel laureates and international decision makers have built strong bridges with leaders in all parts of society and with the general public. With the basis for peace being education and synergies being the fruit of cooperation, the International Peace Foundation has not realized bridges alone, but has carried out the program together with UNESCO and 112 other national and international institutions, including 53 major universities and schools. The multidisciplinary and pluralistic approach of bridges in Thailand, the Philippines and Malaysia, and of the events in Cambodia reflects that peace involves all parts of society. It involves awareness and social responsibility of politicians, the business community, scientists, artists, and the media. And since peace within ourselves, our families, and our environment starts in our minds and hearts, it involves every one of us. In this sense, bridges challenges us to cross borders and to build bridges by listening and opening up to other viewpoints, by generating new thoughts, by developing innovative forms of cooperation, and by fulfilling the desire of everyone to get to know and to learn from each other. This can lead us to a world in which we will be able to understand each other and the complexities we face today in a new light. The globalized world needs broad strategies for change, for a sustainable future for us and the next generations. So let us be inspired by the knowledge and wisdom that Bridges continues to offer, an opportunity to get a more inclusive, interconnected and comprehensive view of ourselves and of the world in which we live in, and which we are able to create a new constantly through dialogues towards a culture of peace which need the participation of everyone. As the Bridges series now comes to its close in Cambodia and will be continued in the years ahead in other ASEAN countries such as Vietnam, Indonesia, Laos and Brunei, I thank His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, the Nobel Peace Laureate and President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, who has agreed to come to Cambodia to support the events. We now look forward to his keynote speech and to his important contribution to build bridges. Welcome, Your Excellency, Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta.
Your Excellencies, the President of the University and faculty, students, members of the diplomatic corps, it's a great honor, a pleasure to be here in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. I confess that I don't have a prepared text to share with you. Whatever I will say will be off-the-cuff remarks with the inevitable rambling set of ideas on a theme that is necessarily complex and long. But before I address the theme of promoting culture of peace, non-violence, allow me to share with you first, as I couldn't do otherwise, being the President of my country, to share with you some facts about the situation today in my country, because it's actually fitting with the idea of promoting cultural peace and non-violence in the world. Today, we are at peace with robust economic growth for the last 3 years, average double-digit growth, but still with enormous challenges in modernizing our administration, making it functional, responsive to the needs of the people, delivering basic services to rural areas, improving the performance of the government, the ministries, strengthening the judiciary, rule of law, modernizing our small police force and defense force, make them sensitive and responsive to the people. All these are part of the lengthy process of nation building and state building. But at the same time, as we undertake these tasks for the past 7-8 years, since transfer of sovereignty from the United Nations to the Timorese authorities in 2002, we have had also to deal with healing the wounds in the country among divided individuals or divided communities in the previous 24 years, but also normalizing relations with the Republic of Indonesia. So you can imagine the monumental challenge and task that we inherited. 8 years in the life of a family, a university, is very short. 8 years in the life of a country, a nation state, is even shorter. So for this, we beg understanding for our shortcomings. But Timor-Leste today is at peace, strong, robust economic growth, and actually if you look at the Economist booklet, the pocketbook of 2010, you will see that we have the highest surplus budget against GDP in the world, almost 300% surplus. Second is Libya, 30-something%. So we are, but that is derived from oil and gas revenues that fortunately, by design of God, was given to us on the day when we acceded independence in 2002. In May 20, 2002, the very first day of independence, we signed a historical agreement with Australia in revenue sharing of one major gas and oil field called Baikunda, whereby we get 90% of the downstream revenues and Australia 10% of the revenues. In 2002, our budget, the budget was managed by the first government. I don't know the budget of this university, but I know the budget of many other universities around the world, in the United States, in Australia. Yes, definitely our budget was much smaller, many times smaller than Harvard University budget, for instance. Our budget was $68 million. It was with $68 million that the Prime Minister at the time and his cabinet, I was Foreign Minister, had to meet even the modest expectations of the people. Because sometimes we hear academic, journalistic jargons talking about high expectations of the people in the post-independence. Actually, the people don't have high expectations. They ask for clean water, they ask access to school, medical care, maybe electricity, maybe transportation. these are not high expectations. These are modest and normal. But what was heartbreaking is that even these very modest expectations, we weren't able to meet with $68 million budget. In 2004-2005, oil revenues began to come in, but still slow, modest. And only by 2006-2007, oil price went up, and suddenly our petroleum fund, which was created in 2004-2005, which we were expected to reach a few $billion in 20 years, in only 5 years, it reached what we thought we would reach in 20 years. It is with this budget from oil, mostly from oil and gas revenues, that we attempt to finance the building of infrastructures, roads, bridges, a new port, airport, improving, modernizing our agriculture to ensure food security, but also doing what I always argue. A few years ago, I was telling the then Prime Minister, he was pleased with how our petroleum fund was getting fatter and fatter. But I said, as our petroleum fund gets fatter because of the increased oil price, commodities, other commodities also go up in the cost. People start feeling the cost of increased oil price, and you must find a way to transfer some of this cash into the pockets of the people. At the time when I argued for direct cash transfer to the poor, it sounded like a heresy. At least some international multilateral institutions would not agree with that. Doesn't sound good economics. But this is what we began to do in 2008. In 2008, we began to transfer every month $20, but payable every 6 months, to every person over the age 60, every handicapped or vulnerable person, on top of widows and orphans. This year, this money went up to $30. My argument at the time was that not only this was a moral obligation on our part, but it would make sense economically. My argument was that it was immoral to let our petroleum fund manage in New York by a fund manager in U.S. Treasury bonds, safe, no doubt, average, modest but good interest paid into the account from the investment in U.S. Treasury bonds. But we needed to do much more than that. Our law required us to use only 3% of the revenues from the investment of the petroleum fund in U.S. Treasury bonds. The law does not allow us to spend more than that, unless the government is able to present to the parliament specific concrete projects to be funded by the petroleum fund above the 3%. I propose that we do make good economics by transferring cash to the people. My argument was, if we give $20, $30, I was arguing for more. I argued for $40 to $50 a month for anyone over the age 55, which was consistent with our life expectancy, which today is close to 60. But the parliament, the government agreed, 60 years and $20, and now $30. My argument was, if you give $30 to a poor lady, barefoot, she is not going to immediately rush to Bali, to Singapore, to do duty-free shopping, to buy lipsticks and expensive perfume. they would immediately spend the money in buying more vegetables, eggs, chicken in their communities. So money would be injected into the local rural economy. And this is what's happening. Tens of thousands of people who never saw money in their lives suddenly began to receive $30 a month. And I commend my government for the extraordinary effort they did in only a few months, involving community leaders, district administrators. They were able to identify people around the country and deliver the money. I travel extensively throughout the country. Constantly, I stop along the way whenever I see an elderly person, lady, walking down the dirt road. I ask, mother, that's how in Timor we treat an older person, father or mother. Mother, are you receiving that $30 from the government? Almost all of them say yes. And I ask, and what do you do with it? She would say, I buy some kaleng. Kaleng is a Timorese word for corrugated iron to fix my home. Or I buy some extra rice for my grandchildren. These are all efforts that we make to rebuild the country, to bring peace to the country after 24 years of occupation, and then following occupation, our internal problems. Healing the wounds among the divided communities. Healing the wounds within our defense force, between the defense force and the police. The Road to Peace, I have a TV program called The Road to Peace and National Unity. It's a monthly program, pre-recorded anywhere in a remote village, engaging hundreds of people in dialogue. And today I'm pleased to say that the program is almost like an utter failure, because the theme is the road to peace and national unity. People are supposed to engage with me in discussions about the notion of peace and unity. They are supposed to give me ideas. I give them ideas about how to promote peace. The moderator attempts to lead the people towards the theme, but zero question coming from the audience or comment about peace and national unity. What do they ask? They tell Mr. President, Father President, how about a road to my village instead of road to peace? And we are at peace here, so what they're talking about? We want a road here. We want water. We want electricity. We want schools. So I've been doing this program now for well over a year, and still not one single question has come to me about how to promote peace. But this is positive, because 2 years ago, wherever I spoke, in the parliament, in the villages, all the questions were, when are you going to bring security to us? When are you going to put police here? When are you going to send the army here? Why the United Nations police is not here? Today, not a single question deals with that. But this does not mean that peace has been consolidated in the country. It is much longer the road than this. People with no patience, people who are always in a hurry, or who do not have time to listen, to sit down and listen to the common people, to the youth. They are not destined, they don't have the vocation to build peace. In countries, particularly post-conflict, where there is trauma, there is wounds that you don't see in the body, but you can see in the eyes, in the face, you can see in the soul. It requires much more sensitivity, patience to heal. My program is very therapeutical in this regard, but also I work with youth in the communities. Over a year ago, we launched a program called Dili City of Peace. And where did I launch it? I didn't launch it in a workshop hosted by the United Nations. I did launch it in an international conference. I launched it in a place called Bekora, one of the more problematic neighborhood of Dili, the capital. And who were the audience? Not academics, not diplomats, or government officials. They were people mostly barefoot, unshaven, unclean, members of gangs, martial arts groups, and of course some student leaders as well. I put a simple challenge to them. We will build a city of peace, but it will be you who will build this city of peace, because the city is more yours than mine. I live comfortably. I have a security. It is you who have to build peace from within your neighborhoods. But you cannot build peace only with speeches as inspiring as they may be. You have also to address some of the basic needs of the poor, because some root causes of violence has to do with poverty, with land dispute, with housing dispute, with the feeling of alienation and dispossession. So, part of the program, I challenge the youth in the neighborhoods who used to fight each other and they often burn their rivals' homes. I challenge them to build homes for the poorest in the neighborhood. I said, I will not decide who will be the poorest. You will identify. I give you the building material and cash to build a home. And that's what they did. We have built dozens of homes in the poorest neighborhoods. It is these gangs, these individuals who built. Very simple. Each house cost $2,000. And what was the definition of the poorest person? The definition is, I told them my definition, which they agreed. Someone who sleep under the stars. He look at the stars every evening. Might sound romantic, but can be uncomfortable. When it rains, and sleep on the wet dirt floor. But they were the ones who identified the poorest. And on top of this, together with the government, we try to improve the lives of the people throughout the country. And this is what leadership is all about. And this is part of peace building, peacemaking. It cannot be only workshops, conferences. We, in each of our own society, you students in Cambodia, wherever you live, you can build peace in your communities. First, within your homes. There cannot be domestic violence in our midst. A home has to be the most sacred, the safest. A child or a mother cannot feel unsafe in their own home. The road to the school must be the safest. The school has to be the safest. And when the child listens to the bell ringing, time to go home, he or she must be excited in going home. Because some children are scared of going home. Because home is hell. And this is not all still. We must also show compassion to the poorest in our neighborhoods. I asked the audience at the time, when I launched the campaign, whether any of them had ever helped a blind person crossing the street. Whether they ever invited a very poor old man sitting on the road into their home offering a meal. This is what peace is all about. Has to do with humanity, has to do with compassion, with solidarity. Peace is not an abstract concept. It's not only absence of war, absence of violence. Peace has to do also with us showing understanding towards what in many communities called illegal migrants. You might be surprised to hear that poor East Timor now also has many illegal migrants. And I always use the word illegal in quotes, because I don't like the word illegal. Calling on a human being, you are illegal. What does that supposed to mean? Illegal on this planet? I know, illegal in my country, we have immigration laws and all of that. We have migrants, illegal, from Bangladesh, from China, from mainland China, from Indonesia, the largest numbers, and even some all the way from Africa, from Nigeria particularly. As I drive sometimes around town, I see some faces that easily recognizable as from Bangladesh. And who they are? They are already building a shop, usually furnished shop, some restaurants. And I think of the extraordinary contributions of migrants throughout history. The US is what it is today, thanks to migrants. First from all over Europe, and then from the rest of the world. As I lived in the United States and traveled throughout the US over the years, some 30 years ago, some of the most startling encounters that I had was going one place to another, like going to one of the most famous hospitals in Boston, the Eye and Ear Hospital in Boston, and who was the chief surgeon in that hospital. I thought I was going to meet an elderly person, Anglo-Saxon, blonde, blue eyes. It was an Indian in his 30s. I just remember his name was Dr. Thomas. Very good looking, young, in his 30s. He was the chief surgeon in that prestigious university. And many more experiences like that throughout the United States. And I tell you, if today Guatemalans, El Salvadorians, Mexicans were to stop working in Los Angeles, particularly the ladies in Los Angeles would not know what to do with their lives. Los Angeles would paralyze. And that means we are in a globalized world where each individuals, communities perform functions that are necessary to keep this engine going around the world. In Australia, about 10 years or 15 years ago, maybe 10 years, I was in Melbourne and met with the then new mayor of Melbourne. I was pleasantly surprised to meet the new mayor. He was ethnic Chinese, first generation post-Tiananmen, speaking English with Chinese accent. 20 years earlier, he would never have been elected mayor anywhere in Australia. The society changed in Australia. And they were able to elect in that very big city an ethnic Chinese as mayor. And this I explained to my people in the neighborhood to counter some of the rumblings about illegal migrants. I tell them, illegal migrants don't take jobs away from anyone. Don't believe in this propaganda. They invent, they make up jobs for themselves. They create jobs. And this is all part of the culture of peace. Because if you do not have a tolerance, respect towards an unknown person from somewhere in the world coming to your country, do you really have the sentiments, feelings, commitment to building peace? Can there be reconciliation in your proclamation of peace, but at the same time say, yes, peace, but not with these people from elsewhere? So this is what I explain in my own country. Now moving to maybe a bigger picture, although I believe what I say might more or less applicable in most situations. I end my remarks here today with the challenges that Asia faces. This is a follow-up of some remarks, a speech I made in Singapore, December 17, at this Institute of Strategic and Defense Studies. I don't remember even the exact title, but it was something along the lines, Challenges and Opportunities for Asia. While undoubtedly Asia today offers the greatest promises, it has almost 50% of the world population, the largest concentration of wealth. It also has 60% of the world's poor. But it is also one of the most dangerous regions of the world. The most nuclearized region of the world is Asia. Pakistan, India, North Korea, China, not to mention those with aspiration to have a bomb in our Asia region. And on top of this, you have a historical, deep-seated, some decades-old border disputes that often have flared up into open warfare between neighbors. And then you have some religious extremism that translate into violence, not only in Asia, but from Asia gone elsewhere to Europe and the United States. So you have a combustion of wealth, disparity, extreme poverty, religious extremism, and nuclear weapons. When President Barack Obama gave a speech in New York in September on a nuclear-free world, I met with him in the course of those days twice, brief social encounters. And as I was sitting in the Security Council chamber, listening to that very inspiring, eloquent speech, my mind veered towards the borders of Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, North Korea, and I thought, what a task he has thrust on himself. That evening, even though I was very sick, I had bronchitis, the doctor had diagnosed me with bronchitis. But because I had gone to New York, paid a ticket to go to New York, and I stayed in a very cheap hotel because I refused to pay the horrendous prices that New York hotels impose on presidents and prime ministers during the General Assembly. I stayed in a single room, and I said, I'm not going to, I'm paying $400 a night, must be the cheapest for any head of state, and you stay in the room. It would make no sense. So I kept on going to the UN. Maybe in the process I passed on my bronchitis to a few people. At least my US Secret Services, they all got my bronchitis, because after 2 days I saw all of them coughing. And I was embarrassed. I wouldn't look at them in their faces. But they were very polite, they wouldn't say anything. When I met President Barack Obama, I said, President, you cannot fail. He looked at me and said, we will work together. I haste to clarify that he did not mean working together with me, little me, but he meant in his very, typical approach in developing partnerships with countries around the world. It is with this partnership between the powers that be that maybe some of the vexing issues that affect Asia for so many decades may be resolved or reduced in their seriousness, gravity, and intensity. This month, coming month, May, the United Nations will hold a so-called conference review of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. There was a meeting in Washington a few weeks ago of 40 nuclear powers. Will President Barack Obama succeed in his vision to force partnerships to address some of these global challenges? Well, he will succeed if Asian leaders live up to our own responsibilities. 50% of the global population is here, 60% of the world poor, the greatest concentration of nuclear weapons. Because of the huge demographics that present Asia with great opportunities, but also with great challenges, it is also our responsibility. And it is on the issue of climate change that I believe Asia can take center stage and lead. This is what I have discussed with another little country, the president of Maldives, Nasheed. I don't know if in Cambodia you people know much about Maldives. A bit over 1,000 islands, 200 of which inhabited, absolute paradise. I went there by coincidence on Valentine's Day. Well, it was pure coincidence. I asked to see the President Nasheed of Maldives urgent, and he agreed on Valentine's Day. He didn't know what was, it was Valentine's Day. But the very cynical media in my country immediately speculated that why he go to Maldives on Valentine's Day. Well, my companion was our foreign minister, a male person, the Minister of Environment, a male person, my advisor here, not exactly my idea of spending romantic Valentine's Day on it. We were there to discuss how these two countries can push for an Asian summit on climate change to move away from the confrontation in Copenhagen that led to the debacle. Although many diplomats tried to put their best face to it, it was a failure. We were not able to live up to our responsibilities. And I clarify, I was the only probably head of state who was not there. I didn't go to Copenhagen. Because back in June, in a speech in Geneva, I had anticipated that it would fail and why it would fail. So we propose that Asia take center stage, leadership, build a consensus, an Asian consensus on climate change, sustainable development, poverty eradication, illiteracy eradication, using the resources that exist in Asia. And then invite everybody else along. I do not believe that there can be a binding agreement in Cancun, a binding treaty. But why it has to be always a binding treaty? Following the classic traditional models of international conferences, we always say a binding treaty. Why not a voluntary pledge by each and every country, each country saying, we are prepared to go this far. Back with money from Asia, an Asian fund to support adaptation, mitigation, reforestation, but also other related issues like poverty, illiteracy, research in renewable energy. It would be the first time that Asia take leadership, center stage in an international multilateral forum in a constructive manner. This is a unique opportunity for China, for Japan, for the Republic of Korea, for India. I refer to the major Asian powers. I had a discussion with Prime Minister Toyama in Japan. This is a unique opportunity for Japan to build bridges with China, with Korea, and vice versa. Together, working with India, forge a strong Asian consensus. And this is part of peacemaking. Maybe through a consensus on climate change, working together on a common purpose, common agenda, facing this common challenge of climate change, we might see relations in East Asia, relations in Asia improve, and then move to the next stage, resolving border disputes and the nuclear weapons problems. Last but not least, to end my comments, I cannot fail to pay tribute to all of you Cambodians, coming from where I come from, a country with similar tragedy like yours. In 1975, the problems in Timor-Leste began, lasting 24 years. Almost 200,000 people out of population of, at the time, less than 800,000 died in the following 5 years. We were a footnote of the Cold War, a footnote of history. You were a sideshow in the Vietnam War. And the tribute I want to make and what impressed me is also similar to the attitude of the people in Timor-Leste. I don't know much about Cambodia. This is my third visit, and every visit has been brief, but I have read enough. In spite of the tragedy of the past, from what I've been able to read, there has not been cases of lynching, of murder, of anyone suspect with involvement in the past crimes. In meeting with so many Cambodians over the years, I have not found this profound hatred that I found in the Balkans when I was there 10 years ago, invited by the Organization of Cooperation and Security in Europe to visit Bosnia. One of the most uncomfortable lectures I ever gave in my life was in Bosnia. Talking about peace, reconciliation, oh, they were angry. I found myself to be totally out of place. I pay tribute to you, to the Cambodians, for your courage, your resilience, not in forgetting the past, because we cannot forget the past. Even smaller things that happen in our life, we cannot forget, obviously. How can we forget tragedies that we felt on ourselves? We in Timor-Leste, we do not forget the tragedies that fell on us. I come from a family that lost many brothers and sisters. And only 2 years ago, I almost lost my own life. Having negotiated with the rebels, and the rebels said I was the only leader in the country they trusted. In the end, I was shot. But for the people of Timor, it was a turning point. The moment I was shot, all violence stopped till today. So I know what suffering is, what violence is, and that's why I pay tribute to you and to my own people. In the past 10 years since our transition from referendum to independence, 8 years of independence, there has not been one single case of revenge killing. There have been killings because of land dispute, the political crisis, but nothing related to the past of Indonesian occupation, or nothing related to or conflict between people who support independence and those who oppose independence. Not a single case. And that's why I tell our people, yes, my dream of building a city of peace is realizable, because you have shown in your heart how you are capable of forgiving even your worst enemies. I thank you. God bless you.
His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta for your inspiring speech. And now I'd like to invite you to remain on stage for the Q&A session. For this, I'd like to invite Dr. Tron Gilbert, Dean of Faculty of Social Science and International Relations, to moderate the sessions. Thank you, Dr. Tron.
Thank you. Your Excellency, distinguished representatives from other countries, PUC leadership, faculty, staff, students, PUC members of the general public, it is a great honor for me to participate in this particular program and to act as moderator of this session. In order to make it possible for the maximum number of people to participate, I would like to propose, or perhaps even lay down a few ground rules. Some people like to make statements before they ask questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that here, so please, no statements, just ask you direct questions. Secondly, some people like to ask 2, 3, or 4 questions. Again, we need to accommodate the full house here to give as many people as possible a chance. 1 question per person. And the final point, when you ask a question, please state your name, the organization you are associated with, if you are a student, the school you go to, and the program that you are studying. Without further ado, I'm opening the floor for the first question. Dr. Wright.
Mr. President, thank you. I just would like to ask, I know Timor-Leste is attempting to gain admission into ASEAN. And I would like for you to maybe address the issue of how ASEAN can play a role in what you were talking about, building a culture of peace and development within this region. Thank you.
Timor-Leste is geographically on the footprint of Southeast Asia, and by virtue of our geography, it has been accepted by all ASEAN leaders that Timor-Leste is eligible to be the 11th member. This has been politically agreed by all, as communicated to me already some 3 years ago by President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono of Indonesia. And Indonesia, in fact, has been one of our best champions, advocates of membership in ASEAN, which tells about the level of our reconciliation and relationship. They have even assigned a senior diplomat, former ambassador, to work with us in Timor-Leste as our advisor on membership accession. So we will be, and yesterday I was very pleased that Prime Minister Hun Sen and this morning the Foreign Minister reassured me very categorically that Cambodia also very strongly support Timor-Leste membership. In our own target, which we imposed on ourselves in Timor-Leste to force us to work harder, to build our institutions, improve our economy, we set a target of 2012 to join ASEAN. Indonesia will take over the presidency of ASEAN in 2011 and 2012 Cambodia. It will be great that it will be Indonesia and Cambodia that will share the process of our formal membership. But if it doesn't happen in 2012, we also wouldn't be too impatient. We would understand the agenda of ASEAN. Yes, I do believe that ASEAN Secretariat in particular, but then civil society in each ASEAN country can contribute much more through initiatives like this to address some of the conflict still existing in within each country and in some tensions between neighboring countries. Because for ASEAN to acquire an even stronger voice internationally. It has to be a solid organization, and to be proactive, it has to address the challenges that we face internally. And that's why we also, in Timor-Leste, are very pragmatic, realistic, and I said only a week or 2 weeks ago in a meeting with cabinet members, with our Council of State, an advisory body to the President, and I said, in relation to membership in ASEAN, with problems existing in ASEAN, would they want another member, Timor-Leste, if we do not continue to consolidate peace and economically? Of course, if I were an ASEAN leader, I would say politely, maybe the East Timorese should wait a bit longer. So I challenge our people, we must consolidate peace, make it a lasting, permanent status of Timor, continue to perform economically if we want to be fully integrated in ASEAN. So we challenge ourselves, because ASEAN has enough problems of winning its borders, some of the member countries. And it would be unfair for us to impose ourselves in circumstances that would not be terribly good for ASEAN. Some of the problems exist in ASEAN countries, particularly in the Philippines, in the south, decades old, and southern Thailand. And some of these problems, I believe that only with a lot of steady engagement, patience, can be resolved. And sometimes some of us are afraid of, or because we are too proud, we do not want international assistance, like international mediation. Well, in my own country in 2006, I was only foreign minister at the time, but had a meeting with my colleagues when the problems happened in the country, within the army, the police, and some people are very proud. We should not ask international assistance. And, but I said, our first responsibility is not to our own pride. Our first responsibility is to ensure safety, security of the people. Can we deliver that on our own? I ask the question. If we don't, then let us help from friends. And I am a patriot like anybody else on earth. But for me, sometimes I find silly some of the debate, discussions, outbursts of nationalism, rejecting international mediation or rejecting a UN presence. I have no difficulties with it. I have no problem seeing Australian troops, New Zealand troops, or UN police driving around the city. They are, the UN police, they are the worst drivers in the world. More than once, I almost had a clash with a UN car coming opposite direction, but that's the worst you can say. So the problem sometimes is that when we, within our own countries, difficult to find people who are not involved one way or another in their conflicts. Difficult to find someone who is completely neutral. Particularly, the smaller the community, the more difficult to find neutral people. So it's not bad to have sometimes a Norwegian, a harmless Norwegian come in and help, or a harmless Finnish. The Indonesians, among the proudest people in Asia, and a few years ago you couldn't talk about Aceh to the Indonesians. You would have an immediate emotional reaction. But then, through the mediation, first very, very discreet work of a Geneva-based group called Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, and then later came Martti Ahtisaari, President of Finland. They resolved the problem of Aceh. So some of the problems is good to have international mediation. Sometimes discreet, sometimes unnecessarily more visible.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. From Faculty of Education, majoring in English, TESOL. My name is Murat, a senior student of this university. Well, it's a profound pleasure that I have joined this special event. It's a great pleasure for me to join this peace conference. You know, as I have seen the many revolutions and conflicts throughout history, well, the problem is happened when the gaps of the rich and the poor grows stronger. So to me, so how could you suggest me to do, and all the people in the world to do, and to bring the gap between the rich and the poor closer in order to make peace of the world? Thank you very much.
Before I answer that, I just want to complete my thought on the previous issue. Often, the reluctance of the state to deal with minority problems is proportional, corresponding to the level of development of the institutions, culture of democracy in that country. The more self-confident a country is about its viability, its existence, the more it is open to compromise on this. Look at, well, the United States is an extreme example. How many languages people speak in New York alone? Take aside the UN, people who live in Manhattan, more than 100 languages. Spanish is not yet an official language in the United States, but even politicians today want to speak Spanish because of the number of voters Spanish speaking. Does anyone in Washington, in the Congress, worry about forbidding, no, they should not speak Spanish. This is an English country. No, quite the contrary, even presidential candidates want to learn Spanish to win over the Spanish voters. And why that? Well, it is a very, very confident state, unshakable. They can afford all of these luxuries. In a smaller scale, in size, Australia. We have a national radio programs, TV programs in numerous languages, I don't know how many languages now, addressed to minority communities in Australia. And why they do that? Because they feel overconfident. The state is solid. But when you are small, vulnerable, new nation state, yes, it's understandable. Leaders are more, but it's a catch-22. But if you don't address the sensitivities, the feelings, the demands of a minority, well, the state will be weaker because they will fight and undermine even more the state. So that's the dilemma. The question yes, you are right in pointing to the gap existing between emerging leaders, emerging elites in countries. Well, that happens in most of our countries around the world. What are the ways to address, to prevent that? Civil society, media, strong parliamentary practices, where the parliament do their work, their role, overseeing the executive branch, where the civil society leaders speak out, media speak out on injustices, but above all, national leaders. I'll give you the example of Brazil, one of, in the past at least, known as the most unequal society in the world, with extreme rich, very, very small number, and extreme poor, the largest. But under President Lula of Brazil, poverty, the population of almost 200 million, in the last 8-10 years, poverty has decreased by 30 to 40 million people. So under a leadership of that nature, yes, you can close the gap. It boils down to the quality of leaders. And the quality of leaders that we have depends very much on the electorate. So the final arbiters, the judges, are the people who elect us. in 2012 we have a new election in my own country. And it's going to be very, very telling election because the people in 2012 in the country will judge those who today are in office. We have a political system whereby the president does not have executive authority. We have a more or less similar system to the French, the Portuguese semi-presidential system. The government is the president is directly elected by the people, but separate from the parliament, separate from the government. So I do not have day-to-day responsibilities on the conduct of the affairs of the country, except on security matters. My responsibility is to promote peace, security in the country, national unity, and so on. The day-to-day management of the country belongs to the government. And we all will be judged. My term ends in 2012. At this stage at least, my mind is I will not run again, although I'm able to, under the Constitution, to run again. But I'm not terribly interested. And, but those in the government, in the parliament, they all want to be re-elected. And they will be judged. And they will be judged by one important factor today, the perception of corruption, of waste, of mismanagement. And the people are very aware. So they will be the judges. I hope I answered your question satisfactorily. Next.
Okay, thank you. The President has a very tight schedule. We have time for only one more question. Yeah.
Because I have a domestic issue question. Have you had success in convincing people that domestic violence is a national problem? That it's an issue of civic responsibility?
In the sense of that, have I convinced the people that domestic violence is a national problem? I don't know whether people have this awareness now, but I do speak about it ad nauseum all the time. And I have to say, yes, it is a pervasive problem in my country. Wherever I go, in the villages, almost always I ask, is there domestic violence here? And almost always the answer is yes. And sometimes I put the question differently. I ask the community leader, as I walk with him, I ask him, is there violence in this community? He says, no, we don't have violence, only some domestic violence. It means that for many people, and this is not an isolated answer, for many, well, domestic violence is not really violence, it's just between husband and wife or parents and kids. But for us, it is a serious problem, it's a national problem. And both UNICEF, the United Nations in general, the government, myself, we speak out again and again. There are more cases because in the past there were no information or no mechanisms of reporting. So, but now there are more frequent reports from women in particular, to the police, to the authorities about domestic violence. One way to address this is, as with time, the empowerment of the women. Because sometimes it happens that I have been witness. A woman goes and complains to the police. The police detain the individual concerned and he might end up in jail. But he is the only person who is earning money for the family or has a shop. And so who is going to look after the family? So that is a tragedy. And the only way is more education to the women, more empowerment of the women, not only politically but economically. And in my country, I've been very outspoken on this, and I often encourage people not to vote for male politicians. Because when you look at our history, who dragged people into violence? Not women, men. And that's not only our country, I think throughout the world, throughout history. Maybe for a change, one day we should every male person in the world retire and let women run the countries. Maybe we'll have less wars. And one woman, a barefoot, simple, illiterate woman in one village many years ago in 2001, because I never forgot her statement in that meeting. And she was very angry with the past of violence. She said, men always drag us into violence. If this continues, we will not vote for any male man for the parliament. So, but I have to confess, it's still a big problem in my country, and I don't know whether we have reached the people in that this is a national problem. This is a national responsibility. We must stop this.
Your Excellency, thank you for a very informative speech and very clear answers to good questions. I also want to thank all of those who participated in the question and answer period. And thank you to the rest of you for coming. I think we all speak here a strong hand, and we move on to the next part of the program.
I thank you again, Mr. President, and also thank you, Dr. Tran, for being our moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, in token of appreciation for visiting our university, PUC, Dr. Jia Samjantan, PUC President, would like to present a gift to His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta. Our special event in welcoming His Excellency Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste and Nobel Peace Prize Laureate, and delegation now come to an end. I thank you very much for joining the program, and may you have a nice afternoon. Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council for Education, PUC founder and Chairman and CEO, Dr. Jia Samjangpon, PUC President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon again. We will come to you our special session with a Khmer survivor, and this afternoon we are having 6 speakers who have lived through the Khmer periods. Each of them will briefly talk about his or her experiences during the time. Without further ado, may I invite Ms. Chum Sukha to be the first topic on women and family, then followed by politics, culture, livelihood, education, and youth. Ms. Chum Sukha, please.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Jose Ramos-Horta, President of Timor-Leste, winner of the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, and delegation. His Excellency Dr. Kongping, Senior Minister and Royal Government of Cambodia, Vice Chairman of the Supreme National Council of Education, PUC founder, Chairman of PUC Board of Trustees. Dr. Jia Samjangpon, PUC President, Dean, and faculty members. First of all, I would like to thank the PUC to give me this opportunity to deliver a short presentation about women and family during Khmer Rouge from April 17, 1975 till January 7, 1979. In fact, there is a lot of information on the internet, but the story that I'm going to tell you about are true, and I learned from the people around me, which is called children group and called Tongkoma. As mother, women could not meet or take care of them in terms of food, education, or sickness. Mother was very worried about their children. They did not know whether they were fine, sick, or hungry. The only one thing that women could do at that time was crying silently and pray to the Buddha. And if they refused, they would be destroyed or put in jail. During Khmer Rouge, all the people worked for exchange little food or sometimes no food. Khmer Rouge said women and men have equal rights. Therefore, if men can carry 100 kilograms of rice, women have to do so. But naturally, women are weaker than men. Therefore, they cannot do the same physical work as men. However, Khmer Rouge did not care about this, and they forced women to overwork, so they became sick and died gradually. In contrast, in new Cambodian society, men and women have equal rights in terms of sharing ideas and working in any department of the government. For example, in one family, if husband cannot earn enough money, women can work outside and help. But if husband can support the family alone, women just stay home and do household chores, looking after children and give additional education to the kids. Husband and wife help each other in earning money and doing housework. Nowadays, women work to fulfill their needs and to improve their standard of living. Women live happily and can decide to do what they want. My presentation finished now. Thank you for attention.
About significant Cambodian political situation during the Khmer Rouge regime. Then the country became the constitutional monarchy, which was under the leadership of King Norodom Sihanouk from 1953 to 1970. After living in peace and tranquility about a decade, Cambodia was threatened by internal crises such as economic difficulties, corruption, growing alienation between the people and the government, the growth of militant communists, and external crises, for instance, conflicts in neighboring Vietnam. Because of those crises, King Sihanouk's period of reign was ended up by a bloodless coup on March 18, 1970. After King Sihanouk was overthrown by the pro-American Field Marshal Lionel on March 18, 1970, a new regime called the Khmer Republic was instated in October 1970. By then, Cambodia was plunged into civil war and the Vietnam War. And on April 17, 1975, the Khmer Republic collapsed and the Khmer forces occupied Phnom Penh. Now permit me to quickly describe the political situation under the Democratic Kampuchea, known to the world as the Killing Field, the regime which was under the firm control of Pol Pot from April 17, 1975 to January 7, 1979. The collapse of the Khmer Republic on April 17, 1975 marked the victory of the Democratic Kampuchea, the communist Khmer under the leadership of Pol Pot. Soon after occupying Cambodia's towns and cities, the Khmer evacuated all city dwellers into the countryside to remote, far-flung, or malaria areas with little or no preparation. The city dwellers had been told that they had to leave immediately because the Americans were going to bomb the cities, but that they would be allowed to return in a few days. During that chaotic evacuation, mass executions were first conducted for the former Khmer Republic soldiers, military officers, police, intellectuals, and all educated people whom they could find. Also, civil servants and officials of the Lionel regime were asked to identify themselves. The Khmer said the civil servants and officials would be needed to have run the country. But instead of being taken to have run the country, as they were told, they were taken and immediately shot dead. All urban people who had been evacuated were forced to take up agricultural tasks, such as clearing land, planting crops, and building canals, all under severe supervision from armed soldiers and Khmer Rouge cadres. Living conditions deteriorated, especially for those unaccustomed to physical labor. Every single day, people were murdered for complaining about living conditions, for expressing religious sentiments, for not working hard, for collecting food for their own use, for having sexual relations, or for grieving over the loss of relatives or friends. The evacuees from the cities were driven hard, rising before 5 a.m. in the morning and sometimes working until 8 p.m. if there was sufficient light. Where options were not available, groups of 8 people pulled plows in their stead. Workers who did not meet their quota were reprimanded, and if they did not improve, they were sent to the Angkale, means higher organization, which meant execution. Workers were not given enough to eat and had to forage in the field and woods for lizards, crabs, insects, etc. The Khmer Rouge soldiers told the evacuees that they had it easy compared to what the revolutionaries had to endure during the war. When workers complained about the food, the soldier told them, "If you are not happy, we will take you to a place where there is more than enough to eat, i.e. to the place of execution, where there were many dead bodies." The Khmer Rouge soldiers, on the other hand, had plenty. They justified the difference on the argument, "You are prisoners of war. We were hungry for 5 years. Now it's your turn." The Khmer Rouge isolated Cambodia from all foreign influences. At that time, Cambodia had a severe absence of teachers, professors, doctors, engineers, lawyers, bankers, artists, monks, and other civil servants. Traditional family life was violently disrupted and virtually abolished. Families were broken up and were replaced with communal groupings. Children, siblings, parents, husbands, wives, and grandparents all work and live separately from each other. The people live in a very frightening situation, and no one trusted one another. Buddhism and other religions were repressed ruthlessly. Temples were destroyed or put to secular uses, and monks were defrauded, tortured, and forced to do manual labor. Markets, currency, and formal education were beyond imagination. During its rule over Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge, under the political and ideological leadership of Pol Pot, strove to build a socially and ethnically homogeneous society by abolishing all pre-existing economic, social, and cultural institutions, and transforming the population of Cambodia into a collective workforce. Within 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, an estimated 1.7 million souls had perished from murder, starvation, overwork, and diseases. Its brutality gave the community Hanoi, who had waited for the best opportunity, a pretext for coming to Cambodia in December 1978. The democratic Kampuchea was ended and a neo-colonial rule emerged. There are major lessons of the Cambodian nightmare. The first and most important is that the forced march of economic development under a Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist program did not work, despite the tragic sacrifices of the people. Little or nothing of lasting value were accomplished, and the system could not even meet the necessities of life. Another thing to remember is that power is dangerous under any circumstance, and absolute power in the hands of self-righteous fanatics is almost certain to produce a living hell like Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge period. Thank you very much.
It was a long prehistoric establishment of the Austro-Asiatic rule. The second stage commenced with the introduction of Indian culture. The third stage combined these two earlier trends into the basic today's Cambodian tradition. On the golden age of Cambodia was between the 9th and the 14th centuries, during the Angkor period, during which it was a powerful and prosperous empire that flourished and dominated almost all of inland Southeast Asia. Many temples from this period, however, like the Bayon and Angkor Wat, still remain today, scattered throughout Indochina country, as a reminder of the grandeur of Khmer art and culture. Cambodia unparalleled achievement in art, architecture, music, and dance. During this period have had a great influence of many neighborhood kingdoms, namely Thailand and Laos. The effects of Angkorian culture can still be seen today in these centuries as they share many close characteristics with current days of Cambodia. Cambodia began to decline gradually after the death of the great King Chairman VII in 1980. The country has no record of several centuries and referred to endless dispute and civil war. The neighborhood kingdom attacks and looted kingdom from time to time. Capital city evacuated, abandoned, shifted from side to side as the kingdom crumbled, including Phnom Penh. The Khmer were driven out, tortured, degraded, burned, and destroyed. In 1863 to 1953, the French took full control of power over politics, economics, and social life to the French residents and made Cambodia a colony. For nearly 100 years, the French deprived the country of much of its sovereignty. In 1949, Prince Norodom Sihanouk proclaimed Cambodia independent, and in 1953, the full independence was granted. Unfortunately, Khmer culture actually had been disappeared once from Cambodia in the troubled period of Khmer Rouge region in 1975 to 1979. Khmer Rouge leaders Pol Pot formed a communist pigeon farming society which resulted in the death of the 3 million people from starvation, overwork, and execution. There were forcible evacuation, mass murderers, and purposeful starvation of its own people, genocide against national minority, sociocide against the intelligentsia, eradication of the upper and middle class, and the perceived supporters of the old region. Wanton destruction of temples, factories, and modern machinery. The abolition of religion, money, private property, school, book, houses, hospital, families, and the introduction of the forced labor of the entire population, including children separate from their parents. Tragedy affected everyone, everywhere in the country. It was the most obscure period of Cambodian history. It was a period of upheaval and radical social change that devastated the art, culture, tradition, health, morality, physical environment, and shook Cambodian society to its roots. Fun is said to have reborn and begun to flourish again after the United Nations sponsored election of 1993 and established to ensure peace and security of Cambodia. After the general election, Cambodian people have a dilemma in surviving themselves as well as rebuilding their handicapped country. However, we are proud of our great civilization and continue to learn from our past and to preserve our wonderful ancestral heritage. Thank you very much.
That person out of their hometown. In the 1970-75, the people will cooperate and work with the government in order to fight for the field of the battlefield for the war that we call Civil War in Cambodia. But the people in the liberated area was called mutual aid team, that among of 10 or 30 families was counted. In 1925, that team was changed to low-level cooperatives, that those only 100 or 200 people were called. But in 1977, they changed to lower-level cooperative to 200 or 300 people to high-level cooperative that among 1,000 families that we call sub-district. I, myself, and all of my family, among 24 people, was sent to the northwestern that we call Battambang province. We left only 4 back after the liberation day. I and my mom, my mother, that she was passed away last year. Then we have been through in the labor of the state of the Khmer Rouge. This concentrated about to abolish private ownership of the Khmer Rouge, that we was suffered from that country. They want to strengthen the status of the workers and peasants, but we are the people in the city. Among those, my family, we are the middle family. That my father was a teacher, that they count us that the operation by using the food which is so scarce. People were unpleasant and crucial because they need to survive. They do everything in order to survive. People give all their property to be used for collectively. Then people have nothing than their own. Khmer Rouge cooperatives, they mean great force for building the country. Khmer Rouge, they think the cooperative, the strong wall to protect the democratic country. This concerns to the daily life. we always have the nightmare. We don't have time to be happy. We don't have time to socialize. Then we have to work hard. Even that we left the family. I myself was separated from my family. We call mobile Jew. That we force us to separate from all of 24. Then we stay alone. My sister and my father and my mother also separated. This concern to the nightmare all the time, that we always socialize with each other, especially in the time that we have like New Year and some of the religious ceremony that we have, always have the time together, but in Pol Pot time that we call PUC, Democratic Committee, they create the equal life, but unfortunately, they have to create two new classes that we call the old people and the new people. New class among us that were sent and were evacuated from city to the countryside. That's the new class. But how about the old class that we call the base people? Among people who work and cooperate with the Khmeros the time before the 17th April 1975. But we, among the people, were evacuated from after 1975, that we call the new people and the old people. So you see the state in the society, we have two people have anger each other. The old people have think that we are the one from the city to get the food from there that they have built from long time in the Civil War. Then we have nothing to do with that. But they send us to this. We have nothing to do with it. Base people live in the liberal area and then they have right to vote. But we are the new people, we have no right to do that. This concern to the nightmare that we have in that time. If we're talking about the marriage, we have no right to marry with the old people, with the base people. We have to waiting for the mass marriage that UNCA support, that UNCA organize for us. So we don't have to have the socializing with our family. We don't have the parent concentrate with this marriage of us. This concern. Mobile people, children unit, youth unit, adult unit were forced out of the family, like I mentioned before. This no unit, united family, no question. If we have question about this, we have to send to kill. Then we say that we have to work whatever that UNCA sent us to do and asked us to do. We have to do the hard work, the difficult task, ditch canal, ditch the reservoir, build dike, clear land, plant harvest right, and work over 12 hours a day. No question. Purge and massacre. UNCA means the Khmeros always search for enemy. They fear the enemy everywhere. The enemy among other people. The enemy among our family. The enemy among our people who was evacuated from the city. They think that the enemy always located there. That's why from day to day, from night to night, we always work with this kind of really the suspect. We are the suspect. We suspect as accused as the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and then KGB, Soviet Secret Police, and then we are Vietnam. So all these three that we accuse, they accuse us. Then, if we have something wrong with that kind of follow this stuff of working, we have to fall in that suspect, this concern. So people were sent to kill. We only say that we cannot change our life, even that we know our past. But nowadays, we still think about the nightmare that happened to us. This concentrate to our memory. I myself, among 24 members, was sent to kill him. I am one of 4 back to the hometown after 7 January 1929. This is my short message for you. Actually, we have more than that, but unfortunately, we have no time to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think because the time is short, please make about Less than 5 minutes.
And just small boys. So talking about education during Pol Pot, at that time no school in general, no formal schools. We have only primary school, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 maximum in my province. So I passed it. So all children were sent to study under trees or under house, people's house. So teachers were selected from poor family who could write a little bit and read a little bit and just plus and minus simple mathematics. And so we study only 1 or 2 hours per day, 2 or 3 days per week, and several weeks per year. The rest of our times we work in the farm. We collect the waste of cows, from water buffalo, and from human to make fertilizer for farming. And we were taught to sing a nationalist song. I mean the song in terms of for brainwash to become the pure communist for next generation. So even parents or brothers or sisters, if they're against organization we call Onka, they have become enemy. So even in our family, so we were boys, small boys, so we don't listen to parents, we listen only to Onka, obey Onka, and believe only Onka. Onka means organization. So some boys could kill their parents because they believe Onka and their parents become enemy. This is very, very sad. For my village, we call all small kids, we call it's a pineapple eyes. They mean the pineapple fruit, they got eyes around it, so they can see whatever you're doing. So we call pineapple eyes. And even wolf have ear to listen to you at night. So this is just a brief story about education in Cambodia during 3 years. So no university, no secondary, just primary school from grade 1 and 2 until grade 3. I myself studied from grade 1 until grade 3. 3 years study every year. I could read and could write Khmer Cambodian alphabet. That's it. For ABC, that's it. So during 3 years period in my education. Thank you very much.
One question, curiosity. Some of the children, they told their story.
Seems like we got court case, Khmer tribunal. So they got some people come up and talk about their own story on radio, and
they killed their parents.
Yes, very sad. Because they said they know nothing about, at that time, just listen to organization, listen to about Onka.
It must be incredibly profoundly traumatizing for them having killed their own parents.
Either they do directly or indirectly by reporting wrong information to the organization, like the parents should not have hidden provision for the food, so they report it. When they report it, they kill their parents.
So
that's indirect.
One more question, or 2 or 3 questions. One, of course, we all heard about Pol Pot and the Ansari and the big ones, and many of them already died. But there are many others, like senior and middle ranking officers in the Khmer Rouge. What happened to them? Are they around, free?
Yes.
The military.
Or military or civilian party leaders? Because the party has like not only the top 6 or top 10, but they have hundreds more. No?
Yeah.
They are around. So second question is, you as victims, what do you feel about them? What is your, do you want to see them in jail? You hate them? You're angry? You want to see them dead? What do you feel?
For my idea, it seems like at that time it was boys, and seems like people they obey from one ranking to another. So example, if they don't do this way, and they were killed as well. So you know, to different level, and so the reason why we got the international court here, and so we will find out more details. It's international tribunal. So, okay,
do we agree with the international tribunal? You support it?
Yes, strong support. It's a lesson learned for our generation. And in Cambodia, the same Pol Pot ordered to move the family from the city town to the rural areas. After they go to the rural areas, in the jungles especially, Pol Pot team had to manage and arrange children had to go to their groups, boy units and girl units. Young, that means female young men go to their community, and female young men go to their community. Mother, they have to their community, and father, they have to go to their community in the whole country, especially the youth. The youth is the third target to get killed. After the first target is police officer, military officer, soldiers, all the rank from the top until the bottom. And the second target to get killed, government official like a teacher, doctor, and the third target to get killed is the youth. The youth, for the first year, they try to get to know who is work for the government, who is the student. Like my area, northern parts of Cambodia, different from Mr. Kirana. They invited intelligent the student to teach, but no. After that, please teach the children this primary level, secondary level, and then those of them very happy. And they get after you get enrolled, you have to go back to your home. But in fact, it is the way that collect the people to get killed in tours like museum. You know, tens, thousands of people get killed because of their these cheering people in order to suppress the youth and to stop them against the Pol Pot regime. They send the youth to dig a huge dams and then canal. They work very, very hard, no food, so some of youth they run away, get killed. Some youth because of starvation, they still get killed. Some youth they miss their family, secretly visiting their family, get killed. Some of youth they complain, why you treat us badly, get killed. So if some of youth they got very, very sick, and they accuse that you come from the highest position class in the city, often get killed. And some youth complain a lot, and no, and they visit sick because of no medicine to cure them. Many times, 1, 2, 3 times, and kill them. So every day we heard of crying for help, crying for justice. But really quiet. Died. In 1996, my father, Lieutenant Colonel Billy Foreign, got killed. 1976, my younger sister died because of starvation. 1978, my mother was killed because they accused of her of CIA person. So these events, the experience happen everywhere in Cambodia. In the case, I really support, the Khmer tribunal supported by UN. So I really want them
to get jail because of Cambodian constitution. It's not allowed to execute anyone. So we really want them to get in the prison for life imprisonment. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I'd like to invite you to try Cambodian tropical fruits and also some Cambodian snack. Please enjoy.
Well, to comment, because sometimes words are not necessary, are never enough. I understand, because what you say sometimes is similar to what people in my own country went through for 24 years. And as I said today in my speech, during the occupation, I myself lost 3 brothers, 1 sister. The sister was killed. We found her body because the people in the village, very far away, they saw her killed and they buried her. And they kept eye on her grave for the following 20 years. In 2003, we exhumed and reburied in the city. And but then, 1 brother, he died in the city, in the hospital, so that was okay. But 2 others, still till today, 20 years later, we don't know where they were killed. And so that, even happened with my own family. So you can imagine the less known people. In your case is a special, particular case in Cambodia. Ours, I have always opposed a tribunal. Why I oppose an international tribunal? Because majority of the crimes are committed by the Indonesian army. Who is going to impose a tribunal on Indonesia? Indonesia is was 10 years ago, very fragile and very proud country. They will never accept an international tribunal. And if an international tribunal were imposed anyway by the Security Council, it would be empty, because no president in Indonesia would ever agree to surrender anyone to the international tribunal. And we set in motion also forces in Indonesia, not only Muslims but also secular groups, nationalist groups, all would be so angry with us. So it would be very difficult for our relation to normalize relations with Indonesia. So that's one reason why I oppose an international tribunal, because it will make it much more difficult for us to recover. And there are many East Timorese who collaborated and with the Indonesian occupation. So who we are going to start trying? Select a few as an example? Is that justice? Because if you want to try, then try everybody from A to Z, not a select a few. Because when you say, well, we can only, for practical reasons, because that's what sometimes international tribunal they say, for practical reasons, they try only a few. Well, that's already some politics. That's already a political decision. And in our case, I also thought, yes, okay, we try Indonesia. But why only Indonesia? Why not the United States? They're the one who provide the weapons to the regime. So I say, in our case, not in the case of Cambodia, I don't talk about any other, because each situation is different. Each people in your own country are the ones who decide what is the best. In our case, our people, the common people, understand very well the reasons of state why we do it. And each of those who are guilty, they are the ones who will be forever haunted by the crime they committed. And not me, not the innocent ones. Those who committed a crime, the victim, the soul of the victim, the blood of the victim, will always haunt them in their dreams, in their sleep, in their lives. And so that has been my philosophy. So, and the common people understand. I was elected direct by the people with 70% of the vote, even though they knew my position. And I'm very blunt. I tell people not what they want to hear, but what I feel. I tell them, do you want the International Tribunal? Find another president. I will not do it. For this reason. When I was foreign minister, I said the same. Do you want the International Tribunal? Find another foreign minister. And still I was elected. Last year, the International Republic Institute did a survey in the country. My popularity rating was 83%, the highest in the country. Even though
in the world,
probably higher in the world, and even though they know what because I don't play politics. I say what I feel, the best for the country. Because they all know where I stand. So, but I said that's in each country, you know. In Cambodia you have a different situation. Maybe what you are demanding is the best for the country. Like it was in Germany after World War II, in Japan after World War II, but not in South Africa. In South Africa, they say no to trials. I met with Mandela many times. When he first left prison, met with him sitting in his own bedroom in Johannesburg. One day he called me. I was waiting to see him, and he just came out of hospital because he had a knee operation. And he said, well, I called you to come here because I didn't want you to wait until I get better. And so he was in bed, you know, and we were chatting, and he said, well, in the case of South Africa, after decades of apartheid, of crime, there should be either a tribunal in South Africa or an international one. But it will never end the trials. So they did the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to tell the truth, to apologize. So that's what we decided to do in Timor. We do two mechanisms, a National Truth Commission and a bilateral one with Indonesia. The first time ever, two countries in conflict did a bilateral truth commission. Five commissioners appointed by the Indonesian president, 5 commissioners appointed by us, by myself. At the time was the President Shanana, with me as a foreign minister at the time. And when I became president, endorsed it. And they just finished their work with a very strict mandate to find the truth of the events in one single year, 1999. And in the end, the Indonesian army accepted responsibility. The Joint Commission, Indonesia and Timor, made up of the best people we could find on the two sides, concluded the Indonesian army was responsible for most of the violence. The Indonesian army said accepted responsibility. But no trials. And then we helped the victims. Killings of former Khmer Rouge, somewhere in Phnom Penh, somewhere in the town. Many of them were killed by angry victims. That is remarkable. It's right that you demand justice, but it's even more noble that we hear no violence, revenge against these individuals. You have shown to be greater than them. So that's my only words and to pay tribute to you. You have my fullest sympathy, and I hope the International Tribunal here do a proper job, because sometimes in some situations it drags on and on and on, and sometimes a total disaster. Like in the case of Bashir of Sudan, the prosecutor indicted him in a poorly prepared case, and the judges at The Hague threw away the case. So sometimes they're very expensive. Tens of millions of dollars spent on the international judiciary process. But if, like in the case of Cambodia, it serves a purpose, and the purpose is to tell the truth, to ascertain guilt, we shouldn't count money in this, as the international community has obligation to pay for it. No matter how much it costs, it's the obligation of the rich countries to pay for this. But they also should help the victim, not only pay the very expensive judges, prosecutors, but they should put money, millions of dollars, to help the victims. The problem sometimes they prepare, like in my country, because the UN had some, not a tribunal, they call it a serious crime unit, which is equivalent to a tribunal, but they did only research and prosecution and indictment. And they're prepared to pay millions of dollars to the judges, prosecutors, researchers. But how about putting some money aside for the victims? No, that's not part of their responsibility.
We don't know, whenever we have another opportunity, we would like to see you here or see you somewhere. We wish you very good luck and success in your peace mission. And thank you very much for your presentation.